Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we do start, let us give a brief little review. In the last part, a number of things have happened. We had Izuku. We also had Vilgax. Now, Vilgax has waited about a month for his body to fully heal from the explosion Xylene caused on her ship. Now, Vilgax now is back at full power, even more so. He is ready. He went down to Earth and got Izuku. He abducted him and went back to his ship, where he's begun the process of trying to extract the Omnitrix, slowly and painfully. He wants to make a point to Izuku. He thought he could use the universe's greatest weapon as a toy, to play hero, whenever Izuku is simply thinking too small. And Deku, he also learned something quite shocking. He never put it together. But his grandfather was supposed to be the one to possess the Omnitrix, not him. And that kind of bummed Izuku out. Now, David Shield, Mark, and Kentaro. These three are currently driving in the rust bucket to try and save Izuku. They have been using their advanced systems to try and pinpoint the location of Vilgax, and they found it. They are currently driving on a mountain, and they have a lot going through their minds. Right now, Ken, he is worried. He thought about calling his daughter and telling her everything, explaining to her that he's trying to save her son from an alien threat. I mean, the last time they faced Vilgax, a lot of people died. And that included David's father. And right now he doesn't want to turn to Mark, expressing to his old friend about what to do. Right now, he'd do best to come clean. If he does still think so, hide that truth. However, talk to his daughter. Talk to Mina. Leave a message to Melissa. Him turning to David, recommending him to do the exact same thing, since he doesn't know if they'll get out of this alive. Now, David does currently sit there at the table. Him still working on a machine he's been working on for a little bit of time. Ever since he heard that somebody was after the Omnitrix whenever it came to Earth through plumber channels, he's been working on something. He heard stories about this Vilgax guy. He didn't believe it, but he himself is concerned. If there is a threat coming to Earth, as a plumber himself, he should be ready and prepared. And currently David does so going to hold up the piece of tech, talking about how he already told Melissa a few things, and he made her quite aware. If he doesn't come back home, then she'll already know. And that does want to unnerve him. Now, currently they do get to drive over the mountain, and they do get to see Vilgax's spaceship floating there up in the air. And right now, it is beginning the process of taking off. And Ken does do one simple thing. He has to at least spin the wheel and right now go off of the road. Him currently jumping the rust bucket as it is smashed back down, and Mina herself doesn't want to shake. Her a lot more alarmed, as the rust bucket, it currently does do a few things. And Ken, yeah. He's always wondered how powerful these thrusters are, and hopefully they can carry them through the air. As right now he is doing a few things. He has an idea. Turn on the afterburners and make sure they build up enough speed and momentum, and then turn them off and on again. Let them cool and then give a massive boost whenever they lose all momentum in the air, or when they just start to. It's an idea. And that is the craziest plan he does currently have. And David, he does gotta buckle up, as right now he himself is go to bring up his hands and think about a few things. Currently, him thinking of his wife, as Mark, he's gonna close his eyes. And Ken is gonna put the pedal to the metal. And Mina herself, she is thrown around, as right now we do actually have Vilgax, who is talking about a few things. He can't wait to have the Omnitrix. He can't wait for it to be in his grasp and to replicate its powers so that he can have an army. And Deku, he does try and keep Vilgax talking. So what, Squidface? You made this thing? Made it? No, I didn't. Azimuth created the Omnitrix. Who? Another Galvin. You call him something different, but his DNA is in that watch. Him is going to tap on the machine, expressing. Once they have the Omnitrix off of him, he is going to do a lot. He already does have robots flying around his planet and trying to collect samples from multiple humans. He does believe that their compromised genetic codes will do him very well. And Deku's a little confused. What are you talking about? You are not thinking in the grand scheme of things, boy. Your species should not do what they do. This simple idea of playing hero, it's preposterous. Your species is simply having a countdown to oblivion. That's all it is. And whenever that countdown's finally over, your species might outlast their usefulness to me. Though, I could always do something with the DNA I collect. See what I can do. Maybe after I take the Omnitrix off of you, I experiment. See if I can create a monster. I'm still going to bend down and stare at Deku at an eye level. And Deku, he does just somewhat sit there. I'm a little afraid. And right now, Vilgax does talk about it. However, that will come later. As right now, Deku does start hearing a sound, and Vilgax does a turn. Right now, the rust bucket flying up and smashing Drookie into the wall. It still has burners on, as is a smash right now Vilgax and send the man flying. As right now the man just sent rolling backwards and smashing into the ground. Him going to dig his claws into the ground and stop himself. As he has to stand back up. And right now Ken does actually jump out of the driver's seat and grab the giant gun. Him running out and bringing it up, shouting at Vilgax to stay the hell away from Mizuku. Now, right now Deku, he does actually turn and watch that. And right now there actually is where an electronic pulse is sent out. As Ken is going to fire the gun, and Vilgax is smashing through the wall. And there actually currently is Mark, who does going to run out of the rust bucket himself and bring up his own weapon. As the man is going to turn, as David is going to step out. Him telling him, go find the power grid. Shut this place down or get them back down to Earth. But set this place to overload. They need to get off of here and have a plan. Find the escape pods and keep in communications. After that's all said and done, let them know how much time they have. And David does understand. Him gonna nod and currently gonna run. Him running through the door as Deku did see the man run off. And Deku, he currently does feel himself get shocked as Ken is gonna turn. Is Zuko gonna turn into gray matter? But I didn't. Izuku! Deku looking up. As Ken is gonna turn into Ripjaws. Okay, something is wrong with the watch. I'm going to turn it into Diamond Head. Okay, I can work with this one. Now, Vilgax is going to walk out. Him expressing. Bring up his hands. Ah yes, the plumbers. Kentaro and Mark. Long time. It's been too long. Though, if he remembers correctly, they were the examples. Vilgax, stay the hell away from my grandson. Now, Vilgax is charging forwards, and there actually is Deku, who he himself is going to turn and rush towards Vilgax. Him bringing his hand up, and right now going to do a few things. As for him and Vilgax do to meet, Vilgax is to send Deku flying. Deku trying to smash him in the face as his arm was destroyed. It shattering as Deku was sent flying through the air and smashing the wall. Mark bringing up his gun and blasting it directly out at Vilgax. And Vilgax is to bring up his arm, him deflecting the attack, as right now he is a lot more annoyed. And there currently is Mina, who does step out from her hiding spot. Her a lot more disoriented and alarmed by the amount of force that she was shaking around with. Now, she's going to run over. Her running out of the door, as she does see the giant squid man. Her alarmed, And another actually remarked as to turn his head and see Mina for a second. Him looking back to the battle as, Mina, what are you doing here? Now, Mina is a lot more alarmed, and Vilgax would turn his head and see that, as Mina herself was to bring up her hands and blast out her own powers. And Vilgax actually is somewhat sent moving down to the right as Mark blessed out with her. Now, Vilgax is sent flying through a wall, and Deku, he also has to get back up and put himself back together, as is it turned into Wild Mutt? Okay, what can he do? I'm trying to think. Okay, as Grey Matter, he can think. Wait for that and see what he can do, but Four Arms doesn't work here. He can't do much as Wild Mutt, but okay, sensing. Okay, try and figure this out, Izuku. Now, Deku's gonna turn into another alien. I notice that throw his hands down onto the ground as they're green. Deku bring his hands up. What's this guy? Now, Deku does actually somewhat start to move. Him going to move in as he does can see Vilgax. Him bringing his hands out and going to actually shoot them outwards as Deku's going to think. Okay, so he's like a plant. Now, one of his tendrils are going to wrap around Vilgax's arm. Vilgax going to turn, bring his hand up, and yank Izuku towards him. And Deku, the one he is sent flying forwards, he's going to turn into another alien. Him right now going to turn into Cannonball. Now, Izuku, he has a smash out into Vilgax. And whenever he does a smash into him, he's sent flying and smashing into a wall, as he does somewhat bounce. And Deku's a bit more alarmed. Okay, so he turned into another new one? What the heck's up with the watch? Wait, did the surge fry the Omnitrix's... No, wait, there's more aliens in here. Deku thinking, if that's the case, then how many are inside the... No time. Him getting onto his feet. And gonna run at Vilgax. And Vilgax does a turn. Him running gonna actually send Ken flying with an arm as he's flying towards the rust bucket, smashing into it. And he doesn't hit the ground. Him bringing his hands down and grabbing his weapon. And Deku, he actually does gonna turn and see Vilgax. Him rushing at him as Deku doesn't think about what this one can do. He's elastic, made of rubber? No. So, okay, this is weird. Now, right now Vilgax does a turn and see Deku. Him saying Deku flying with another punch as Deku thought he was stronger. However, when Deku gets sent rolling backwards, he finally does to roll up into a ball. Right now him moving that way and hitting the wall, as he doesn't want to bounce off and start rolling back forwards. Him a lot more surprised, he's going to smash right into Vilgax and send him flying through the wall. And Deku does actually something like stand back up. Whoa. So that's what this one does. Okay. Cannon bolts. Ball? Whatever. Him going to turn right into Ghost Reek, as Deku does a look down. Oh, come on! He was hoping for Four Arms or upgrade. Now, there actually is Mina, who does a turn and see Ken. And Deku, he actually see his grandpa sitting there right now injured, as Mark does bring up his own weapon. Him thinking about what to do. And currently Deku is trying to formulate a better plan. Him gonna fly over and grab the gun from his grandpa. As right now he does try to get back to his feet and Deku's to tell him to stay down. And Ken does just shake his head no. Deku flying off with the gun as right now there actually is Vilgax, who does try to find and see Izuku. However, Deku, he's not there. Where did that one go? Izuku gonna change into another alien. Right now him changing into Four Arms, blasting out the weapon as Vilgax does simply dodge away from it. Right now a hole being blasted in the ship and cutting through multiple walls. And that does cause problems. As the ship is floating high in the air. And Izuku, yeah. He has to turn and throw down the gun. He has a plan. He just needs to turn into upgrade. That's all he needs. I'm gonna rush forwards. And right him and Vilgax do to meet. This time Deku bring up with his arms and actually gonna bring them up, stopping Vilgax from smashing at him. And Deku, he actually is a lot happier. Okay, this guy's stronger than he thought. Him bring his leg up, smashing Vilgax up in the chest as he actually try and push Vilgax back. And Deku does do so successfully. However, he doesn't actually rush forwards again, him bringing his hand up, smashing Vilgax in the face, and then going to actually start gain some ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Deku looking down at his arm, which is now on fire. Oh man. Now, Deku sent flying backwards, smashing into the wall. Him going to actually land and bring his hand up. Oh. Right. Vilgax going to rush forwards. Him rushing at Deku and bending down, grabbing Deku and smashing him through the rest of the wall as the two do go charging through the ship. Now, Deku does have an idea. Him bringing his hands up and grabbing at Vilgax's head. Him going to actually increase the heat thing for a second. Vilgax is a squid, right? And they need water. So this might either work or at least make him uncomfortable. Take out the eyes. It's a good idea. And there actually currently is Mina, who does stand there as Mark and Ken. The two are both looking at her annoyed. They wanted her to stay behind, but Mina herself has made it quite clear. She will not. And this does annoy them. And they do at least try to ask David where the progress is at. And yeah, things are a little bit more complicated. Right now, him trying to fight his way through the ship and deal with Vilgax's minions. As right now, Deku, he actually isn't flying and smashing to a wall. Him landing down and going to think about a few things. Currently, Vilgax is going to step forwards. As Deku, he has looked down at his hand. Him bring his hand down to the ground and actually send out flames heating up the entire floor in front of him. And Vilgax is to step down into a piece of molten metal. Him a lot more annoyed and surprised. As right now his foot does go directly through the ground as it's falling forwards, smashing his hands down and breaking down to the lower level. And Deku does try to get back up. Currently him going to turn into... Oh, come on. Gray matter again? For once, can't he just get what he wants? Okay, though, this gives him time. They don't have much of it. Vilgax is powerful and strong. Okay, but like any human, his body is structured a certain way. So he must have weaknesses, nerves, advantages that he can take care of. Okay. Think, Izuku, think. Him currently running through and leaping over some debris. As right now, he's running back into the room. Him going to turn into... Yes! Upgrade! Now, he's going to bring his hand down. Him grabbing onto the weapon and going to actually upgrade it with his own tech. And Deku, he actually has to bring his hand up, looking at his Vilgax Destroyer, as he right now does have it named in his head. And Izuku, here's a turn. Right now Vilgax leaping upwards to the ground, and currently grabbing onto Izuku, throwing him up in the air. As Deku, he is elongating around and morphing around Vilgax. Him trying to get away, as he's land on the ground. Him charging up the weapon and blasting out towards the alien. And Vilgax is struck in the back with the weapon. Him screaming out in pain as he's sent flying through and smashing into the wall. And currently Deku, he doesn't hear Vilgax get back up. Right now the alien does lay there with a massive wound on his back. And Deku can tell. He broke through the man's armor. Him currently going to transform right now into Accelerate. Him going to drop the gun. Ow! Crap! Deku bring up his leg. That hurt. Now, Mark just not going to sit there. Him actually is going to turn to Ken, as he has at least run over to Vilgax. Him bring up his own weapon and thinking about what to do. And currently there actually is Deku, who did get a turn to his grandpa, thinking that he dealt with the bad guy. However, there actually is then Vilgax, who does go to actually bring up his hand and turn. Him throwing two fingers out directly up into Mark's stomach. And Mark is then picked up as Deku does turn back, hearing Mark scream out in pain as Mina screamed out for her grandpa. And Mark, yeah, he does currently somewhat float in the air, as Vilgax just talk about how annoyed he is with the pesky humans. And Deku stares on, as Mark is then chucked towards a wall and smashing into it. Him gonna smash onto the ground as Deku, he does see how wounded the man is, blood pouring from his wounds. And Vilgax is gonna shake off his hand, as if he didn't just impale a man. And Deku, he has to see it. The look of satisfaction on Vilgax's eyes. And Izuku himself does get angry. Him rushing forwards as Deku, he does get a turn directly back into cannonballs. Him blasting in and smash right into Vilgax. Vilgax bringing up his hands and trying to hold Deku backwards. As Deku, he does then get a turn back into the green alien. And on Deku, he's going to wrap around Vilgax and bring up one of his tendrils, wrapping them around his neck and trying to choke him out. And Vilgax, he is a lot more annoyed. Currently, Deku trying to wrap the man's arms together and stop him from being able to use all of his strength. Deku trying to abuse the fact that Vilgax has joints and bends in his arms. Now, Deku does this on scream at Vilgax, him angrily trying to wrap him up and take care of him, before Deku's turning into Heat Blast. Right now, him going to bring up his hands and smash out into Vilgax and turn into fire. Him going to actually hit the ground as Vilgax is to melt into it. Deku being flying backwards and bringing his hands up. Him blasting out flames as much as he can. And there currently is Mina, who did going to try and take the weapon from the ground. Her running over, grabbing it, and going to turn, blasting at Vilgax as the man is to bring up his arm and block that shot. Him turning towards her, a lot more annoyed. And Deku, he immediately turned to look at Vilgax, knowing what he might do, who he might hurt. And Izuku, he did not want that to happen. And Deku, he did then turn back into gray matter. Mina, run! Now, right now Vilgax is a turn, staring at Deku and thinking about how he'll handle this later. He does want to at least make this quite clear. Him, right now, going to actually turn and walk directly towards Mina, expressing to the little human about the mistake she has made in trying to face him. And Deku, yeah, he currently does get a turn. Him looking around as Ken does going to get back onto his feet. Right now his back's still injured, as he's going to activate his boots and go flying towards Vilgax. Now, Deku's going to watch on. Right now, Vilgax is going to turn and stare at his grandfather. Him going to simply bring up his hand and catch him out of the air. As right now, Ken is to bring up his weapon and try and blast it into Vilgax's face at point blank range. Him trying to use the weaponized energy pistol, as Vilgax is a turn. Him going to actually bring him up more and grab onto his boot. Him ripping off that part of his suit as he likes to stare at Ken, expressing about how he's been a very big pest. And he does know one simple fact about this human. He can't fly. Him's just going to turn and throw him towards the open hole. And now Ken is a smash down onto the ground. Him flying across the ground as he's flying off of the ship. Him bring out his arm and blasting his grappling hook. As right now he does a shoot into something and somewhat float there. The line pulling taut as he's to hang there by the grappling hook. And Izuku does a turn. Him a lot more angry. As right now he does, then a turn back into Ripjaws. Him annoyed and angry at this, as he's rushing towards Vilgax, and Vilgax does a turn to Izuku. Right now Mina blasting him directly in the back, which is a weakened part of Vilgax. Him feeling that pain, turning back towards her as there's a rush in. Him right now biting into Vilgax's arm and turning into Diamond Head. Him going to actually turn his arm into a spike and try and slash upwards towards Vilgax's face. And Vilgax does a turn, grabbing Deku by the arm. Him expressing going to start crushing it, about how he can't really win. What did he expect? And Deku does then get a turn, looking down and shifting his foot. Him going to actually shoot crystals up and around Vilgax. And Vilgax is a lot more impressed. Deku covering his leg in crystal, and right now going to someone immobilize him. As Deku does a turn into Heat Blast. Him looking down, annoyed. And Vilgax does a turn, send him flying through the air. Deku smashing down to the ground and going to actually try and get back up. Him going to turn and see the weapon. Him going to get back onto his feet and run over, grabbing the weapon as Vilgax does a turn. Him bringing his hand up and smashing his leg as right now it does going to get freed from the crystal. And he has a turn back towards Mina. Deku blasting out the weapon at Vilgax. And right now Vilgax does a turn looking back at Izuku. Mina bringing up her hands, blasting out towards him as Vilgax does a turn back to her, bring her up and pulling her up into the air. Before he does a turn to Izuku, trying to tell him, if he does want to try and save her, do one thing. Give up. Otherwise, he will crush her skull right here. Give up the Omnitrix, or this human dies. And Deku does a stare at Vilgax. Right now him with the weapon still in his hands, trying to think about what to do. Vilgax does a stare down at Deku. And Deku, he doesn't do one thing. He just goes to let go of the weapon and let it fall to the ground. And Vilgax does a stare on. Deku bringing his hands down. As right now he's going to turn and throw Mina. Her smashing down and currently going to land on the ground. As right now Ken, he is still dangling by that wire. And David, he's not here. Mark has been taken out of commission. And his injuries, they may be fatal. Deku doesn't know. When he does a turn to stare at the man, there's just a lot of blood on the ground. And Deku, he's afraid. Him turning back to Vilgax as he begins to walk towards him. And Deku, he is trying to think. Just give him forearms. Give him forearms. Now, currently Deku, he has a turn into Stingfly. And the moment he does, he has a look up. Him rushing towards Vilgax and flying up into the air, shooting goo directly into the man's face. And Izuku, he doesn't think. He can work with this. And Mina doesn't want to sit back up, yelling to Izuku to get Ken. And Deku, he has a turn. Him, right now, telling her to do that. He'll handle and distract Vilgax. As right now Vilgax does bring his hands up, trying to pull the goo off of his face. And Deku, he has to start shooting the goo all over Vilgax, trying to get him covered in this stuff so that he can't get away. Don't let him move, don't let him see. That's his main concern. Hopefully he turns into something else though. Something better? Right, that's the main goal. That currently in Deku's mind. And Vilgax is trying to pull the goo off of his face. As right now Deku does shoot the goo down onto the ground, and Vilgax, his feet get covered in it. Deku going to actually turn into Wild Mutt. And the moment Deku does do so, he has to look down and stare at his hands, thinking for a second, rushing at Vilgax and actually going to bite right into his leg, bringing his hand up and trying to dig his claws into Vilgax's back. I know Vilgax does go falling forwards and smashing onto the ground. Him currently still trying to throw his hand up to pull himself off while using one hand to try and swing around for Izuku. And Deku, he does then turn right now back into Cannonball. Him going to think about a few things. Him going to actually turn and run. Him going into a ball and starting to roll around the ship. As right now Deku, he does actually roll back around. Right now, Vilgax trying to get back onto his feet as Deku does smash down into him. And Vilgax, he is ran over. And Deku does do this. He distracts the man while Vilgax tries to break free of his prison, quote unquote. And right now Ken, he does also want dangle there. Him, right now a lot more annoyed because of the pain in his body. And whenever Mina does come running over, she has to at least bend down. Her trying to pull him up with the wire as that's too heavy. Her looking down and bring her hand up. Okay, she has an idea. Her gonna actually try and make a platform under Ken. And whenever she has to do that, she has to focus. Okay, and up. Now, Mina's gonna bring up both of her hands. And right now the thing underneath Ken's feet just start to float there. Him right now feeling his weight as he does could actually get pulled up back onto the level. And when he does a look around, he does see that Deku right now is trying to face off against Vilgax again. As right now there actually is David's shield. David's shield has finally been able to get into Vilgax's network. Finally been able to do a few things. And he currently does get to activate the self-destruct, giving the ship 5 minutes. And that does mean quite a lot. As the ship, it does start to at least make a few sounds, and alert everybody on board that something very bad is about to happen. And whenever Vilgax does hear about that, he does get annoyed, since the core was set to overload. And that is not good. Now, David currently is trying to make his way back, and he's trying to avoid as many people as possible, not focus on fighting. They'll die in the explosion. And that's his main concern. His main concern is getting back to the room and hopefully they're all there. Hopefully Izuku is still okay and alive. I mean, you can't imagine what Ken's going through right now with his own head. His emotions have got to be out of control. And currently there acts as Izuku, who he went from turning into Cannonbolt to turning right now into Heat Blast. Him, they're going to shift into Upgrade as Deku just don't stand there. Him gonna actually turn and look around. And right now Vilgax is gonna stare at Deku, as he has a talk about how he finally, him going to actually rip the goo off of his other eye, was able to turn back into that one. Well, he has to say, it seems like he's finally slowing down. Him right now is going to stare at Deku, and Deku does try to charge up a blast. Him going to try and blast it at Vilgax as the man does a step out to the side. And Mina's going to bring up her arm. Her going to blast right out at Vilgax. And Vilgax does a turn, bringing his hand up and pushing against the attack. As Mina is going to stand there and try to increase the power behind her attack. And Vilgax himself does not move. Him talking about it. He will not be stopped by an Anodite. And she is simply too small for this, though her DNA will make up for a lot. Now, Mina's kind of confused. A what? And currently they're actually Suzuku, who has a turn and run over, him jumping into the console and ripping it out of the ground. Him looking around for more and more tech. And right now Vilgax is turn back towards Suzuku. Him currently gets on, leap out of the way of her attack and bring up his hand. Him smashing down and grabbing a plate and throwing it towards Mina. And Mina herself is struck by the attack, her right now being sent flying backwards into the ground and having the wind knocked out of her. As she's going to lay there. And there actually is Ken. Ken is not doing too well. He has a massive amount of pain in his back. And his foot, it hurts. He's pretty sure Vilgax may have broke it whenever he grabbed his boot. And right now, he's just trying to get onto his feet. And Izuku, he needs his help. And there currently is Deku, who does try to take on more and more of this alien tech. And right now Vilgax, when he's turned to see Izuku, Deku basically does have his own little set of battle armor to face the man. And he has to talk about it. And I'm going to bring up his arm about how Vilgax really needs to shut up. Now, Deku does send out a blast towards the man, and Vilgax does a sidestep it to rush forwards. However, Deku does do one thing. He has to bring up his other hand. Him then going to look down at the ground and blast at the ground, cutting around as Vilgax does a somewhat step through the smoke. And Deku, yeah, he didn't expect that. Him staring at Vilgax and sending out a missile flying at the man. Vilgax catching the missile in the air, as Deku, he doesn't then somewhat going to smile. The missile going to explode and blind Vilgax for a second. Him currently going to look around, try and see for Izuku. However, Deku's going to rush forwards. Him currently going to actually smash into Vilgax with his arm and send him flying down into the ground. As Deku's going to turn to Stinkfly and stare at the man. Him shooting down over and over massive amounts of goo. And Vilgax currently doesn't want to sit there. And Deku doesn't start talking about it. Him looking over. You know, this really isn't good. The Omnitrix is going to time out. Come on, that's even worse. Now, Izuku does a run over. And right now there actually is Deku, who does a run over and try and see if his grandfather is okay. And after Ken is pulled up to his feet, there actually is Mina, who herself does try to roll over and bring her hand up. Her going to clutch at her ribs. You know, maybe staying with Melissa would have been a good idea. Now, Deku, he has a turn. Mina going to actually turn towards Mark, as there actually is David, who just come running into the room. Him looking around and going to actually yell for Mark. Mina getting onto her feet and rushing over. And the man right now is pulled to his feet. However, he has lost a massive amount of blood. Now, he does try to talk about a few things. They need to get out of here. Yeah, we only have 2 minutes before the ship goes boom. Any ideas? No. Deku does look down at the watch. He does have one. Izuku, is that thing even charged? Come on. Deku pressing the button. Yes! Okay, if this thing's gonna listen to him, please, 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 just give him upgrade again. Deku bring his hand up. And now there actually is Vilgax, who currently does a step back into the room. Him still trying to rip the goo off of the thing he's attached to. And Deku, yeah. He has a stare at that. And right now Deku, he has to bring his hand up, smashing down and turning right and upgrade. And there actually is Mark. The moment Vilgax to go rushing forwards, he ran out, grabbing his weapon and smashing to the ground, blasting it, and currently there actually is Vilgax, who's now smashing through and go back to the wall. And Mark does talk about it. All of them need to run. He'll hold off Vilgax. Just get out of here. Now, Ken stared at his old friend, and he did get a yell for him. Get to the RV. And Mark turned back, giving his friend an old smile, as he talked about it. Get the Omnitrix out of here. That's the goal. Get Izuku out of here. Get Mina out of here. Now, Deku stared at Mark, him running over and doing one thing, bringing his hand down and grabbing at the weapon. Mark alarmed as Deku decided to start upgrading it more and more. Him gonna pull his hand back, talking about it. That should help. Huh. Right. Thanks, kid. Listen, get her out of here. Make sure she's okay. Vilgax rushing forwards. And now Deku's turn, blasting out his I-beam as much as he bring up the weapon, blasting out and smashing Vilgax back again. Him talking about it. As right now the weapon is going to kick a lot more than it used to. Him right now is going to fall forwards onto his knee. Just run. Now, Vilgax just comes stepping back out. This time his body seriously injured, as he has to bring his hand up to the wound in his arm. Him expressing, wiping away the blood, about how the Omnitrix will not escape his grasp. Now, Deku's turn, running over to the RV, as right now Ken does rush into the driver's seat, and David is holding Mina back from trying to run out there for her grandfather. Her, right now with tears in her eyes, yelling about how Mark needs to get in the RV. And Deku, he did just go to integrate directly into the rust buckets. Him, right now going to actually drive forwards and smash into Vilgax. Vilgax being sent flying to the ground, as there actually was Deku, who did a turn and yell out for Mark. And Mark, he himself, to go rushing over. Him, right now, actually being caught by Vilgax, who did just going to do one thing. He did going to bring his hand down and smash into the ship, and the floor just to break up. Mark being sent sliding backwards and down into the ground, and Deku tried to move forwards. Right now I'm going to drive the rust bucket forwards as Vilgax is going to hold up Mark. And right now David is going to talk about it. 30 seconds! Now, right now Ken did going to do one thing. Mark wants him to protect Mina, and he is going to tell Izuku, go into reverse. And Deku's a lot more alarmed. And I'm trying to yell back at his grandpa as right now Ken just shout about it. Reverse! Now, Deku just trying to think for a second before he doesn't hear the ship count down. And Deku, he does it a back up. Currently, him driving backwards and off of the alien ship. Now, Deku does it a watch on. Right on the rust bucket, it does go completely weightless. And Izuku is trying to upgrade the systems and make sure this thing can hit the ground safely. And right now Izuku does it a watch on. The ship in higher orbit going to create a massive explosion. And Izuku does it a watch. Mark died. And Izuku, he does try to think whether or not Vilgax may have survived. However, Izuku, yeah. Right now that's not his main concern, as currently the rust bucket is falling down to earth and gaining speed and momentum. And Izuku, he has to do a few things. As right now, Deku, he has to fly the rust bucket down. And the rust bucket, yeah. Whenever it finally does go crashing down onto a highway, there actually is Izuku, who currently does not still stay fused with the rust bucket. Him trying to slow them down and stop them. All the momentum they've been carrying is still going. And right now, Deku, he currently doesn't start hearing the beeping. Oh, come on. Him gonna reform inside the rust bucket, as there actually is Ken. The moment Deku turned back to himself in a flash of light, he brought his hand up, smashing down and setting on an anchor for the rust bucket. Currently, one shooting forwards and one shooting backwards, as right now the anchor in front is go under the rust bucket, and Ken does get to talk about a few things. Him currently still going to bring his hand up and grab Izuku. Him throwing him down to the seat, as Deku, he does could actually bring his hand down. I'm going to buckle up as right now the rust bucket is jerking forwards. Everyone feeling the massive amount of momentum starting to stop. As right now they all do try to sit there. And eventually the rust bucket does come to a stop. Now, everyone there are a lot more alarmed. And there actually currently is Ken, who does go to turn and run outside. Him currently going to look up. And right now things aren't too good. And there actually is Deku. Deku just won't sit there. His head in his hands. He couldn't save Mark. And that just means quite a lot. Now, the plumbers have all been alerted to the situation. And they were trying to do their best. But a few other people, they were watching the battle. They were watching the heroes face off against robots all over the globe. And that caught a lot of people's attention. Now, currently they're acting as Zuko. It's been one day, and the plumbers have all gathered together, not only to remember Mark, but to give him an award. The man sacrificed his life to hopefully kill Vilgax, and that's the problem. They're not too sure how high that ship got before it blew, and there is debris scattered around Japan. I mean, if there's debris, then it's possible that Vilgax's corpse could be somewhere on Earth, or maybe he finally died this time. That's the main concern. Now, Deku does currently sit there. Him on a space station. He's actually in space. And right now Deku doesn't feel too good about anything. I mean, they won. So why doesn't this feel like a victory? Why does this feel bad? Why does he feel bad? I mean, he could have saved him. He could have saved him. Now, there currently is Mina. Mina was also a lot more alarmed. Yes, she was kind of surprised by coming up to space, to an actual space station. But this was just the beginning. I mean, they talked to her and she learned a lot about a few things. Some of the things that her grandfather, he kept secret from even her mom. But there's a lot going through her head. I mean, her injuries are still healing. And people, they were a lot more alarmed that two children fought Vilgax. Though, that's just part of the problem. They're not too sure what happened. And currently Deku, he does want to sit there. Him looking out into space. As Ken is come walking up. Him currently is going to sit down and bring his hand up. Bring it onto Izuku's shoulder. You never get tired of that view. You were supposed to get the Omnitrix. Izuku. Don't lie to me, Grandpa. Why? Why did you lie? Ham's going to bring his hand up. Izuku, that's... I don't know how to tell you that. What? Tell me what? You were supposed to get the Omnitrix, not me? You lied to me. You were supposed to tell the truth. Be truthful. You told me about the plumbers. You told me about everything. You lied about Vilgax. He knew you. Yes, he did. That's a whole other story. Tell me. You said you'd tell me whenever I'm older. But you... I want to know. Why did you lie to me? Now, Ken has to stare down. Izuku, you and I are both quirkless. Him bringing his hand up, trying to at least bring it up and wrap it around onto Deku's shoulder. And Deku's still going to bring his hand up, brushing him off. As he currently does, going to look down at the Omnitrix. And Izuku, he does have a lot going through his mind. As Ken starts to speak, a long time ago, he thought that he wouldn't amount to anything. He wanted to be a hero. And without powers, you can't be. But there was the day he discovered the plumbers. They came to him, and he got involved. He went to space, He got to see parts of the universe. He just felt amazing. He felt like he could be a hero, but it also at points became overwhelming. He's been around, and he's done a lot of things that people, they wouldn't even begin to believe or begin to imagine. There are threats he's faced like Vilgax, who they take things from you. Friends, sanity, trust, they take a lot, and that's all they know how to do. The first time they encountered Vilgax, humans were seen as unpredictable. There was 100 of them, and only a handful of them got away. What? Izuku. There were used to be 200 plumbers on Earth. Some gave up and retired. A lot of us died. Almost half. And that's saying quite a lot. Vilgax took peace of mind from much of us. I lost a lot of friends and family to Vilgax. People I've known for decades. And whenever he finally just left us alive, there was no telling what we could do. There was no right or wrong way to figure things out. I came back to Earth, and I just didn't know. I thought it was finally time to retire, but we just kept into contact. We didn't know what to do. None of us did. The plumbers are failing on Earth, Izuku. And people who don't know what happened that day, it's better if they take over. It's better for us older guys to just sit back and forget, but remember their names. How many? Too many. Now, Deku just sit there, and right now there actually is Mina, who herself was thinking about a lot. Her holding onto a picture of her grandpa whenever he was a younger man. It's a picture of a group of people, and among them is Kentaro. There's a few more, but from what she's heard, all these guys are gone, and there's only one guy left alive in this picture. But that's just the beginning. As currently Deku does sit there, he does stand. Him currently gonna start turn and bolt out of the room, and there actually was somebody walking down the hallway. Who? Deku, whenever he got out of the room, he turned his head and looked at them. Him a lot more surprised and alarmed, as Deku is gonna turn and run off. And right now the woman does gonna walk over to the room as Ken walked over to the door. Him gonna open it up as Xylene and Ken do come face to face. And Ken's a lot more alarmed. Xylene? Good to see you again. Now, with that being said, Deku does have a lot running through his mind. A lot of things have happened. And he just doesn't know. The Omnitrix unlocked aliens, and I mean, there's things hidden inside the watch. He kind of figured that out already with the codes, but unlocking them, he's got to figure that out. He's got to do this. And currently Deku, he did go run back to his room. Him turning into gray matter because he wanted to try and research the subject. And right now there actually is Mina, who does won't sit there. Her mourning the loss of her grandfather. And right now we do actually have on Earth. After the alien attack, it has been all over the news. Aliens exist. And recently what they stopped or whatever happened was some sort of worldwide invasion. People aren't fully aware, but it's believed that something just happened. Many of the robots that were moving around, going around, they just suddenly fell from the sky. Some exploded and some took massive amounts of damage. But the ones who are in good condition. They're being held onto by the governments. And that does mean quite a lot. But we do currently have somebody who they do get a pull off of a panel and stare on at the tech right in front of them, as the doctor's eyes does go to widen, because this could be incredibly useful to their next predicament. Though it does mean quite a lot. Humans are not the superior species on Earth. And right now, well, the good doctor does think about the DNA of a few things. There actually is something inside the Omnitrix, which it wants to get out. And Izuku, he's left unaware. As right now Deku, he does start writing on a page as gray matter. The Omnitrix. And what he does currently know about it. Ultimate weapon. And powerful. That's all he's got. Though he needs to find out the right code. Master control? I mean, whoever built this, Asmith, that's what Vilgax said. That's the guy who made the Omnitrix. So, after he gets information on him, figures out who he is, maybe he could understand it, get master control himself, or maybe unlock more aliens. Maybe save more people. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.